Hello, and welcome back to the Nonstop Podcast. My name is Erica, and I'm your host. On today's episode, I am discussing ladies traveling solo with the one girl wandering, Miss Lindsay. Next Up Nonstop is a travel and lifestyle podcast that promotes the importance of traveling and mental wellness for millennial women. We discuss everything from travel to dating and careers to mental health. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for entertainment purposes only. All right, let's jump into it. And I have the beautiful Lindsay on the show with us today. So, Lindsay, go ahead and introduce yourself to the Next Stop Nonstop family for us.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I am the creator behind One Girl Wandering, which is social media presence and blog. I specifically help encourage and teach women how to travel solo so that they can discover the world while discovering themselves.
Absolutely love it. All right. Well, since we are here, let's get right into it and see what things we can get, some gems we can get from Lindsay, shall we? All right. So let's talk about you first, right? So, where's the first place that you've ever traveled to solo, and how was that experience?
So I started off by going on a huge Europe trip solo, which
Love
is
it.
not what most people do and not necessarily something that I would recommend. I definitely recommend, starting out small and testing your comfort zone. But I started in Luxembourg and then I continued on to France and then ended in Switzerland. So
I love it.
10 days.
So beautiful. Did you go to the countryside or in the city?
I was in the countryside for the most part, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, the Jungfrau region. I had actually been there on a trip before, which is a tip that I do recommend, that if you are wanting to start international solo traveling, a good thing is to go back and experience a place solo that you may have gone with a friend or a significant other. It's a totally different vibe, but you'll also have like a nice comfort level because it'll feel familiar.
Absolutely.
So I've been to Switzerland a couple of times. Highly recommend. It's gorgeous.
Yes. Absolutely. So how was the full experience of that 10-day trip?
I originally thought that this was going to be like a one-time deal. It was going to be a challenge to myself. Yeah. I was just like, what is the scariest thing I can think of? And at that time in my life, it was being in a foreign country by myself.
Yeah. And that is very scary for a lot of people, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially traveling by yourself as a woman. That's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
So I thought this was going to be like a one-time challenge, and I ended up falling in love with it.
Yeah.
And immediately just started scheduling more solo trips for myself. So it was really empowering. Yeah. I felt really, really great just relying on myself, my own problem-solving skills, and just being totally responsible. You rely on people so much in life, and I'm married, so I've got a husband, and you don't really realize as a woman just how much you put in front of your own needs, even unconsciously. Yeah. And I remember I was planning this trip, and I was sitting down and I was thinking about if there was this tour that I wanted to take. And I was like, I don't have to ask anybody. I can just sign up for it and do it. And like, that was just so freeing to be able to just be like, I get to do exactly what I want on my schedule. And heck, if I want to just scrap my itinerary for the day and just like hang out in my hotel room, I can do it. So
do whatever you want. Yep.
So empowering, just a wonderful experience. So of course, immediately addicted, had to do it again.
I love that. So what are some activities that you got into on that trip?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I did a couple of walking tours, ate a lot of really good food. When I was in France, I actually stayed not in Paris, but I stayed in Versailles.
Yes.
And that was wonderful. I got to like really take my time. It's a really, really gorgeous town. And then also the palace is incredible. Yeah. And then I decided, like, while I was out here conquering fears, let's go paragliding in Switzerland.
Okay.
So I signed up for a paragliding tour and was strapped to a nice gentleman, and we ran off a hill and floated past some waterfalls. It was great.
Whoa. Have you ever done it before?
No. And I'm terrified.
That was Oh, so you just got all of it out the way. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I was just like, let's go for it. Let's go.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that had to be beautiful though.
It was
had to be absolutely beautiful. Yeah. I went parasailing one time, and like in between the screams of fear that I had, I was like, oh, this is so nice. Oh my God, this is so nice. So I totally get that. That's awesome. What actually inspired you to start traveling solo?
It's going to sound so silly. I was in a spin class. And I
Okay.
had been going to a spin class regularly. And of course, there was an instructor that I loved. And he would often talk about how, change doesn't come from comfort zones. And of course, he's talking about like physical change, but also mental
Yeah.
change. And I was thinking about it, and I was just like, I am so comfortable in my life. I reached a point where I'm in a wonderful relationship with my husband. We've purchased our house. Like, I have my dream job. Like, everything is just so comfortable. And I realized I'd stopped growing as an individual. And that's when I was like, all right, what's the scariest, most uncomfortable thing I can do? And it turned out to be solo travel.
Oh, I love it. See, and that's, I think, being able to challenge yourself and push yourself to do things you wouldn't normally do, I feel is where you find the most joy. And maybe that's just me, but I feel like it just opens up a whole new world and it gives you new possibilities, something else to achieve and look for. So I love
And
that.
you surprise yourself with what you're capable
Oh,
of.
yeah,
Like, if
absolutely.
you push those boundaries, you come out of that experience or that situation as a much stronger, much more confident individual. And it's whether that's solo travel or trying something new or just changing up your routine is so beneficial.
I would agree with that 1000%. Yep. So, what is your favorite place to go and why?
Japan.
I love it. I've gone to Narita, so tell me more about that.
So I love Japan. It had always been a goal of mine to travel there. It was actually the third solo trip that I went on.
Nice.
And I just fell in love with it. I think that it's fantastic for solo travel for a variety of reasons. One, it's a very safe country in general. Two, it's actually surprisingly easily to get around. The public transportation system is fantastic. And also in a lot of the cities, they are very much geared towards solo people. There's a lot of countertop dining. So there's not like, a lot of people have hang-ups and get a little self-conscious about dining by themselves, which I totally understand. So in Japan, there's a lot of like, you sit at the counter, it's just a spot for one person. You don't have to think that you're being weird or being stared at for eating by yourself. So I love that. I also just love the culture in general. I think that country has a lot to offer. And since the first time I went, I've gone back 3 times now. And in fact, next year I'm hosting 2 group trips.
Tip.
Yes. So I launched the first one earlier this week.
Okay. How was that?
It booked out in 2 hours. So I immediately had to add a second one, which will be launching to my wait list tomorrow. And then any spots that are left over will be open to the general public. And I'm so excited that I get to share this destination with people because I love it so much. And I also just love hosting group trips has been something that I've gotten into this past year. And I love group trips for a variety of reasons, whether or not someone decides to travel with me or travel with somebody else. I think as a solo traveler, especially if you are intimidated by a destination or if you're just starting out, group trips are a great way to go because one, it's different from planning a trip with a group.
Yes, it is.
You just get to sign up. The itinerary is done for you. Everything is taken care of. You get to meet an awesome group of people. So you can go solo, but you've got that safety net of a group. And then you also have the anxiety out of trying to figure out where to go or how to get around, taken care of. And a lot of times, and I know I've done this with the group trips that I'm hosting, time is built in between the activities where you can go explore on your own.
Yes.
So you get like the best of both worlds. It's a fantastic way to like try solo travel without being completely on your own or visiting destinations where you're just like, I'm not comfortable going completely by myself.
Yeah. Alrighty. So what are some things that you've learned about traveling in general?
So I didn't travel a ton until I was in my 30s.
Okay. Yep.
And I was really because I was so intimidated by it. I thought that one, you had to have a ton of money to do it, which I've learned now through travel hacking and finding deals and stuff that you can pretty much manage every destination on a budget and to have a lot of fun doing it. And I also have realized that it's not as hard as I thought it was. I I built up the idea of like, oh, if I don't know any of that language, I can't go there.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true. A lot of the destinations that people want to travel to are luckily very English friendly, and they are used to tourists. So it's not as big a barrier as people think it out to be. And then of course there's awesome things like Google Translate, which can like help bridge that gap.
Yes.
So, I also was very intimidated by public transportation for the longest time. It wasn't something I grew up with.
Yeah.
And it's just so prevalent everywhere outside of the United States. And, once I started to figure out that public transportation is almost the same everywhere in terms of how it's laid out and how you determine where you need to go. And then, of course, Google Maps has a wonderful public transportation section where if you're doing your directions, you just hit the public transportation. It'll tell you exactly what train, what bus you need to get on. It's wonderful. So I just thought it was something that was so much more complicated and harder to do. And the more I've done it, the more I've gotten more comfortable, and the more I've realized I let anxiety get to me. I let the anxiety of the unknown, and I talked myself out of doing a lot of things just because I thought it would be too hard. And, from travel, I've learned that like anxiety lies. Don't listen to it. Yeah, it's there. And you have to struggle with it and you have to deal with it. But just know at the end of the day, it's lying to you about what you can and cannot do and what you can accomplish in life.
I would totally agree with that because it's happened to me before. Even as a flight attendant, you go somewhere and you are like, you're technically not alone, you're with a crew, but if they don't want to go out, you kind of got to go out by yourself. And when I first started, I was like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm ready to kind of like head out by myself. And then you realize, well, try it. What can, what's the worst? People are around you. If there's something that happens, you can come right back. There's always a safety net, for something like that. But I think it's so great for people to actually just go out and try. You learn so many new things, which actually is going to lead me into my next question for you. Okay. What are some strengths and weaknesses about yourself that you learned while traveling?
So I am a planner almost to a fault. And it's, and honestly, it's because of anxiety. Yeah. I realized that one of the best ways for me to control my anxiety when I travel is to plan out my itinerary, know where I'm going, have a plan. And I've actually noticed over the past few years, and I've just noticed actually in the past couple of months, my anxiety around travel has minimized the more that
Love that. Yeah.
And some of that has been necessity because of the pandemic. You have to have flexible plans. So you cannot have solid plans.
Yeah.
It's just,
which can drive you crazy, but for sure.
Exactly. But I've gotten a lot better at going with the flow. And that was something that would terrify me. If I didn't have an itinerary when I first started out, I would basically be paralyzed. I wouldn't know what to do. I would just stay in my hotel room. And so I made sure that like, if I have an itinerary and I know what I'm doing, I know that past Lindsay is taking care of future Lindsay, and just follow the plan and you'll be okay. So, over the past few years of doing solo travel, I've realized that I don't have to rely on that as much.
Okay.
So, and my planning is a strength and a weakness.
I like it. Okay. That's wonderful. Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, just learning how to give myself a little extra time, kind of like you were talking about, building that space, whether you just need a break, you need to eat, you need to just take a nap, whatever it is, learn yourself. And I guess that's, again, is part of actually doing it, and the experiences that you have, you learn how to travel for yourself. So it's very different from person to person, of course, but I think that's fantastic information. So thank you for that. Sure. So what are actually some precautions you take as a woman when you travel solo?
So one of the things that I have to remind myself of is that everywhere I go, there are women who are going about their day.
Yep.
And a lot of the fears that I build up in my head about traveling or being by myself as a woman isn't as extreme as I think it is. And so I have to remind myself, like, there are women who are going to the museums in Paris by themselves. They're going to the stores by themselves. Like, and it's the same thing. Like I leave my own house here in Austin, Texas, and go about my day. And I take a lot of the same precautions that I do at home when I'm traveling. One of the other things that I do have with me that I carry on me is a personal alarm. It's like a high decibel flashing alarm where basically if anything was to frighten me or if I get distressed in any way, you basically pop the top off of it. There's a pin that releases and it just starts making a very loud siren noise. And one of the reasons that I like this device over pepper spray, kitty cat keychains, stun guns, things like that, is it's not something that can be turned on me if my attacker gets it.
That's a good point.
It'll still bring a lot of attention to me and my situation. So that's something that I recommend that people have on them. I think a personal alarm is great. Also, depending on where you travel to, some of those self-protection devices are actually illegal. So make sure that you're looking up the local laws where you go, because you don't want to get in trouble for having something that you're using to protect yourself.
Yep. 100%. So you were saying that you use some of the same precautions you do at home. Can you kind of go into that a little bit? What precautions are those?
So, aware of my surroundings, making sure that I'm researching good parts of town to be in. Like I know where in Austin, where there are areas that I should not be in at certain times at night. So I do the same thing when I'm researching, when I'm traveling by myself. I was like, I also use my gut. I think a lot of times us as women, we are taught to be kind of quiet and not make a fuss. And if you feel uncomfortable, make a fuss about it. Like you're totally justified in saying that you don't want to be in that situation. I would say another thing is if you're traveling by yourself, make sure that there's someone at home who has your itinerary or knows where you're going, that you check in with on a regular basis so that they know that you are okay. For me, that's my husband. We also have our location turned on each other's phones, so we're able to track each other that way, which I think is just a really good precaution. That way you have someone back home who knows like, oh, I haven't heard from them, but I know that they were supposed to be in this place, so I'm able to narrow it down as to where they were supposed to be. Also, I would say make sure that you are registered with if you're traveling with the U.S. government, you can register your travel plans and they will automatically send you alerts. It also allows them, if there is some sort of natural disaster, they have a record that you are traveling to that country. And so they'll know like, oh, hey, we've got a citizen there that we need to help get out. So that's a major one. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I know that there's more that I do because there's like a whole steps. But I would say those are the main precautions that I'm taking when I'm traveling by myself. Lying. I lie all the time. I never say that I'm traveling solo.
That was going to be my next question. I was like, I
mean, use your judgment. Obviously, I think that most people are friendly. I've met a lot of awesome people when I'm traveling solo who are also solo travelers themselves. But I've also been in situations where it's like, it's none of this person's business where I'm staying, who I'm with, what I'm doing, where I'm from. They don't need to know any of that. And I don't live post when I'm traveling on social media. I don't broadcast where I'm at. It's just, I don't have any active stalkers that I know of, but I don't give anyone the opportunity to take advantage of knowing where my location is.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I love that. So have you ever had a concerning situation happen while you were traveling solo? And if you have, how'd you handle that?
I'm trying to think of if I have. I mean, like I said, I've definitely had people that have given me a bad vibe and I've lied to them about, I've been like, oh yeah, my husband's traveling for work and I'm just doing some touristy stuff. I'm just hanging along. We're going to meet up later. I don't think I've ever been in a particularly dangerous situation. Thankfully.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also make sure that I'm taking those steps to not put myself into any of those situations. So I wish I had a better story, but I don't.
No, I'm actually glad you don't. No worries. So what are some things that you consider when you go traveling to a new place or when you choose a place to travel to?
So as I know certain things that I enjoy doing. I love food. So if a place has got good food, my name is on it. I also like to see places that are in the shoulder season. I try not to go during high season. So I try to research times where I can go when it's not going to be super, super busy, because that also helps me cut down on my expenses.
Love it.
And I kind of go where the deals take me, if that's kind of like wild. Like, I've got a list of places, but I don't necessarily go by that list. Like, I am a very big into travel hacking. And so if I see a deal to a place, I'll look it up and I'll do like, all right, what's the weather going to be like when I get there? How much is it going to cost for me to stay there? Like, I look up average costs for things. There's a couple of different websites that you can access where you can just like type in a location. It'll give you like a rough estimate.
Yeah.
I will give you the names and links of those after this. You can provide them to people because they're really helpful.
Okay.
And because a lot of times when you do get those flight deals, they are gone in a couple of hours.
Oh, for sure.
You gotta make a split decision, and a lot of that comes down to weather, money, and also the kinds of activities that you want to do.
What kind of activities do you like to do when you're choosing a place?
So like I said, I love food. So I've been known to book restaurant reservations before I book my hotel reservations.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, a lot of times I'll look up food, and I like to have like one splurge meal, like one really awesome like dinner or really awesome lunch. That's also a really great tip if you are looking to like experience a fancy restaurant. If they have lunch hours, a lot of times you can have like a similar experience to the dinner on a lower cost. So
I love it. There's a tip.
I'm also super big into museums. I love going to see museums. I love history and, art history, stuff like that. But, it's kind of interesting. I've had people who have asked me like, oh, what are the things that I have to do in Paris? And I'm like, look, if you don't like museums at home, you're not going to like them in a foreign country. So, like, I can tell you, oh, the Louvre is amazing, but if you're just not into museums, like, don't force yourself to go to do something that's like considered like a top 10 touristy thing. If it's not something that you actually enjoy in normal life, your personality is not going to change. You're not going to get to Paris and suddenly be like, oh, I love art.
I'm all about the arts. Yeah.
All about the art. It's just not going to happen. Another thing I love to do is I love to get on Airbnb Experiences and book tours through that. Is actually the reason I keep on bringing up Paris is I was just there on a solo trip in February.
Very nice.
And a couple of things that I did there is I did a vintage clothing tour where I got to go shopping with a vintage clothing expert, and she took us to her secret locations in Paris and helped the group pick out things and try things on. And like, that was a ton of fun. I've been to Paris a couple of times, so I was like, I need to get something off the beaten path. Like, I've done the things. I also booked a overnight tour where, because Paris, I don't think I would necessarily feel comfortable going out in the middle of the night by myself. I mean, any big city. So this tour was actually, it started at like 11 o'clock at night, and I think it went till like 1 a.m.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so basically you got to run around the city with like a group, and like the tour guide was this large gentleman, tall, intimidating, and he would take us around to like all the famous spots, and we got to enjoy them completely empty of tourists and at night, and like see the lights. And that was just a really unique experience.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love going to Airbnb Experiences. There's like things that you wouldn't even think of. Like, that wasn't even on my radar. And I just hop on there and I'm like, what's available to me? Like, what can I book? Like, what can I do?
That's awesome. I'm actually going to Greece tomorrow. So that's something that I will look into. So thank you for that. Because I never even thought about that. I go to Airbnb, of course, but I never thought about the Airbnb experience. So that's cool.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I've booked a ton of them. One of my other favorite ones when I was in Japan is I booked a kimono photo shoot. And it's a husband and wife team. And the wife, she's like a certified kimono dresser, which I didn't know this, but a kimono has like something like 23 different parts to it.
No, it doesn't.
It's a whole complicated process.
Oh, wow.
So, and her husband's the photographer. So I got to pick my kimono. They dressed me up. We went out to the cherry blossoms. We took beautiful photos.
Gosh. Yeah.
There's also a lot of really cool experiences like that, especially if you're solo traveling and you want those awesome photos of yourself. Hire a photographer and go have a photo shoot. It is so much fun.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Awesome photos. I take a lot of my own photos solo traveling. But also I like to hire photographers and have that whole experience too, because they can also show you parts of the city that you had no idea about.
Yep. And I was gonna say, and that's a big one. So that's fantastic. Yeah, I actually love that. I would love to do something. I'm like, I would love to do something like that.
Yeah, it's
and
fun.
Those are things that you would never even think about on a regular basis. So that's awesome. So what are some of the places, or what's a place that you want to go to that you haven't been to yet?
So my 7th continent is Australia.
Love it.
I had a trip there planned in March 2020. We all know what happens. Yeah. I have been itching to rebook that trip and go to Australia and, step foot on my 7th continent and celebrate that. So
wow, that's awesome. So that means you've been to Antarctica.
Yeah, so this is kind of a wild story. It was a school field trip in high school for me.
Antarctica?
It was my first time out of the country. And yes, I know it's wild, but the trip was donated to the school.
Oh,
and a group of us got to go on it. And it was literally my first time having a passport, my first time out of the country. Like, kudos to my parents who are like, all right, do it.
have a good time. That's fantastic.
And it's they knew of, like, cell phones, like they didn't know. Like, I was gone for like 20 days and they were just like, I hope she didn't like get eaten by a penguin.
Stop it.
So that was actually the first place that I went to, was like South America and then Antarctica. And it was a wonderful, life-changing, really cool experience. But like I said, I didn't travel a ton until I got in my 30s. So there's a big gap there.
Wow, but that's fantastic. So how was Antarctica for you? What kind of experience did you have there?
It was incredible. So basically when you go down there, you are on a ship for the most part. I know that there's some tours where now you can camp out, but there isn't like a hotel in Antarctica. You're on a ship and you get to do like little expeditions out. And so they take you to different areas. Normally, most people will go to like the peninsula, which is like the part that kind of sticks up and almost touches South America. And so there's a bunch of areas and you see a lot of penguins, you see icebergs and it's just beautiful. And I remember when I went, the scale of it was huge. I was seeing icebergs the size of my house. Like, it was, wow. Yeah. It was definitely something that like really clicked something off in my brain about like how large the world is, how small I am, and how much there is to see. So it was a really, really cool experience. I don't know if high school me really fully appreciated it. I would love to go back again. And like appreciate it now as a more traveled, more adjusted adult. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible. If you're able to do that, I highly recommend it. And then you will also become definitely a person who is a champion of trying to preserve this planet for generations to come, because that's one of the places that is being impacted the most.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And Antarctica is actually on my list. So I'm 5 out of the 7 continents. So Australia's next, and then Antarctica hopefully soon after.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the goal. So how often do you travel solo?
I would say a handful of times. It's gotten more frequent. So I was working up until the pandemic, and then I lost my job in the pandemic. I was working in theater. It was my dream job. Loved it. It was really, really sad and heartbreaking to lose that job. But in turn, it ended up being a good thing because I got to go full time with this, and it has been wonderful. And just I can't be. There is not enough gratitude in the world for like the really terrible thing that I went through to come out of it with this being my now full-time job. I would say I like to travel solo. I don't get to do it as much just because now I'm running group trips and working with like tourism boards and things like that. And then also I'm able to say yes to a lot of things with my friends now that I hadn't been able to. I would say that solo travel, a lot of people are like, when they see me travel with my husband or they see me travel with a group of friends or stuff, they're like, oh, I thought you were a solo traveler. I'm like,
well, I can do multiple. Yeah, right.
You can do multiple things. And I think that solo travel is a wonderful tool to have in your travel toolbox, because if there's a deal that I see and I go, look, I'm booking it, and I can reach out to any of my friends, or I can ask my husband and be like, hey, this deal, do you want to go? And they say no. I go, okay, I'm going by myself. Yep. I'm done. I'm just going to take that trip. Yeah. So, I think a lot of people think when you say you're a solo traveler that that's all you do. And I'm definitely here to break down that stereotype that it is a tool in the toolbox, and to pull it out when you need to, when you need that recharge, when you need that refresh, or when there's no one else who will go with you. And you're just like, you know what? I've got the confidence to do this on my own and go to this place that I know I want to go to.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. So when you are out and about and you meet people when you're traveling solo, are you able to keep in touch with them? Do you still talk to people that you've met?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. A lot of times it's connected over through social media, things like that. So yeah, I definitely do try to keep in contact. A lot of those people that I was telling you with, like, the Airbnb experiences, like that, the husband and wife team that I met in Japan, I am connected with them on social media, and we like check in with each other. Like, so, it's a lot of fun. You get to meet people from all over the world. I'm also very blessed that I have a wide alumna group from my high school.
Yeah.
A lot of people located all around the world. So I get to reach out to them when I'm in their neck of the woods and be like, hey, let's hang out.
Yeah.
Good to see you. So,
I love that. Yeah.
Of course, there is also the opportunity to meet people through online, through my community on Instagram, of people that I've connected with, both that are bloggers themselves or are just, normal people sharing their travels. I get to connect with them. I'll let them know if I'm in an area that they are in, or they'll let me know if we are, coming up on the same destination. I'll get to meet up with them, which is great. And then there's also all the communities on, like, Facebook groups, whether it's Girls Love Travel, Women Who Travel, things like that, where if you want a buddy, you can reach out and be like, hey, I'm going to be in XYZ city. Is anyone else here? Would love to grab dinner. Yep. So there's a lot of options. I always say that traveling solo does not equal alone.
Nope.
I mean, if you want to travel and you don't want to speak to anyone, totally an option for you. But also, I think it opens you up to meet a lot of people, because when you go with a significant other or you go with a group, you're involved with them. You're talking with them.
Yes.
You kind of like have your little bubble up. But when you're solo, you really open yourself up to starting up conversations, meeting people, if you want to.
100%. So what do you want people to know about solo travel, really?
So much. I would like women to feel empowered to do it. We are told that the world is a scary place, to not go alone. That you always need a buddy. And I know that when you dare to go solo, you open yourself up to a level of empowerment and confidence that is just, it's life-changing. And so I would say, even if you just go to the next town over and do a staycation, you will feel the benefits of solo travel. You will feel that empowerment. You'll feel that confidence, and you will feel that self-love and self-care of doing something that is exclusively for yourself. And following your wants, desires, needs. And so you don't need to go around the world to have those benefits. Take yourself out to dinner, go to a museum by yourself, go see a movie by yourself. Just have that experience and be okay saying yes to being solo. There's so many times that we miss out because we don't have anyone. And life is too short. The world is too big and beautiful. Don't miss out just because you don't have someone else to go with you. You have yourself, and you will become a much better, confident person by being able to sit in your stillness and by yourself.
I love that 100%. Yeah. And for me, it's just from emotions of getting to kind of think about things. And you were talking about the anxiety earlier. I suffer with anxiety as well. And so it's amazing in those moments, those quiet moments when I'm just out and about by myself. I'm kind of thinking things through, or, I come to realizations and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. Or it just gives me that confidence and that time, that quiet time. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's so beneficial for a lot of women,
Yeah.
that sometimes we have our whole worlds, whether it's husbands or kids or wives or whatever, jobs, friends, and you never really have those moments to just
Mhm.
take and just be for you and quiet. So
Yeah.
I
And
say do it 100%.
absolutely, and don't fear it. A lot
Yeah,
of times we fear not having someone with us, and it's just it's beyond description just to have the confidence to say, "I can do this on my own. I don't
absolutely.
need anybody else. I can go accomplish this. I can go do this thing without having to wait on anyone."
100%. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming in and joining us today. So, if
Absolutely.
there's anybody out there who wants to follow you or wants to get on one of those trips with you, where can they find you?
So you can find me on all the social medias at One Girl Wandering. One is spelt out. You can also visit my website, onegirlwandering.com. And I've got links on all those places where you can reach out for any of my resources, whether that
Mhm.
be travel hacking or group trips. So yeah, I would love anyone who would like to join me on a group trip to come and do so. They're a lot of fun. Just got back from Costa Rica, and
Oh,
the group and I we had a blast. It
yeah,
was
I bet.
fantastic. So yep, find me wherever you get your social media at One Girl Wandering.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure you'll have some folks just tell them that Erica sent you, okay?
Looking
All right.
forward
Well,
to it.
absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming and stopping by the Next Stop Nonstop podcast. And to my Next Stop Nonstop family, I want to remind you to write a review on iTunes and like, comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Next Stop Nonstop will release new episodes every single Tuesday, so keep an eye out. Also, make sure you tag at Next Up Nonstop in any of your comments, or if you have any topic suggestions, or if you just have a question for me. At Next Up Nonstop can be found on all social media. If you don't want to miss out on any episode releases or any bonus content, make sure you sign up for the Next Stop Nonstop newsletter. And you can get that on the website at www.nextstopnonstop.com. So, until we meet again, I want to wish you all healthy minds and happy travels.